Okay, hi everybody, it's Eugene Butcher here, and I was sent yesterday a really interesting quote by a chap called Joseph Campbell, and I'm going to share that with you. At some point, if I'm recording more of these videos, I might set some kind of time limit, like 90 seconds or 3 minutes or something, but not this one. This message is special, and in fact, when I read it yesterday, I thought, oh my God, if I'm a teacher, if I'm ever a teacher, or if I'm ever a headmaster, I've got no plans to become a headmaster, but I'm just saying, if I was ever a headmaster, this is the quote that would be above the school entrance. It's the quote or the motto that we'd read aloud as a school every day in assembly. So, like I say, it's by a chap called Joseph Campbell, and I'll read it to you. There's mystery here. Can anything happen to you for which you're not ready? I look back now on certain things that at the time seemed to be real disasters. But the results turned out to be the structuring of a really great aspect of my life and career. So what can you say? If you follow your bliss, you'll have your bliss, whether you have money or not. If you follow money, you may lose money, and then you don't have even that. The secure way is really the insecure way, and the way in which the richness of the quest accumulates is really the right way. Joseph Campbell. So follow your bliss and you'll have your bliss, whether you have money or not, and the secure way is really the insecure way. We've probably heard similar messages before. I have, but this just sums it all up beautifully. So if I'm ever a headmaster of a school, it's up there, boom, in big letters. Now, if you're a parent, I'm a parent. I've got children, and in fact, I'm going to be watching with them tonight a movie that's now available online based on Joseph Campbell's work called Finding Joe. I'll come back to that at the end. But if you're a parent, I can understand it if you're thinking, well, Eugene, you know, it sounds beautiful, sounds really nice, sounds really romantic, but you know, I want my kids to work hard at school, get a proper education so they can come out and earn and have the life that they want to have, not necessarily the life that you want them to have, even just the life that they want to have. And I've got an example of somebody who followed this philosophy, Campbell's philosophy. Whether or not he knew it was Campbell's philosophy, I don't know. I don't think so necessarily, but he pretty much followed it to the letter. Now, this guy's story, basically, or the relevant part to what we're talking about, is he went to college. His foster parents, because he was fostered, funded his college education. But when he got to college, he found that the subjects he was meant to be studying didn't interest him. He found them dead dull and boring, and he dropped out of those subjects. And instead, he found that he found himself, or he let himself, sit in on subjects that he did find interesting. But at the time, he had no idea, no rhyme or reason for studying those subjects. He could see no application commercially as to how he might make money from these subjects. For example, one of them was calligraphy, and this was in the 1980s, I think. So, you know, how is he going to get rich? So I'm writing people's windows? I don't think so. But even though at the time he could see no sense in it, he followed his bliss. He enjoyed it. He loved it, and he found it interesting, and he just went with it. And he said only later on in life, looking back on what he did he connect the dots. I may have given it away there. Anyway, I'll carry on and piece all this together. Now, there's a good chance this person has touched your life. If you have ever used an iPod or an iPod Touch, then this guy's touched your life. So if you've ever spoken on an iPhone or written on an iPad, this guy's touched your life. And obviously we're talking about Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs of Apple computers. Obviously, if you use a Mac, then this guy's touched your life. You guys are fanatics, right? So, and it was in his Stanford acceptance speech. I put a link to that video on here so you can watch it. It's phenomenal. Beautiful, beautiful speech. And what Jobs talks about several things, but what he talks about, he said that he could only join the dots, he could only make sense of what he'd done when he looked back at it. At the time when he dropped out of those college courses, it didn't make sense other than it made sense to him in that he was following his gut instinct, he was following his bliss by doing the things that he loved to do, that he was interested in. And yet he went on as a result of doing that. Yes, he had his bliss, and it turns out he also had money as well. But far more than money, I believe he had a much greater satisfaction in the contribution that he made that affected millions, God knows how many people's, millions of people's lives Jobs has added value to and richness and made a difference for. And it turns out that he was just getting started with the iPod and the iPhone and the iPad and the Mac computers, and I believe that Apple's and Steve Jobs' biggest contribution will actually be to education, where using their new iBook platform, which they've trialed and tested in schools and colleges and universities and is being rolled out, and their goal is to revolutionize, and I believe they're going to do it almost overnight in a very short period of time. They're going to change the way our children learn at schools, at colleges, in universities, and even as adults. So I think Jobs was just getting started, and this guy achieved all this by following his bliss, not forcing himself to learn and study and work in things that didn't interest him, that he wasn't passionate about. So, and in that acceptance speech, he talks about joining the dots. He talks about it only making sense after the fact, and he talks about hardship as well. And he talks about the obviously when he realized that the course that he was studying, that he'd been sent to college to study, which was being paid for not easily by his foster parents, and he hated it. He just couldn't do it. So that was a hard time for him. But again, looking back on it, he found huge positives, and that's what Campbell talks about there. I look back now on certain things that at the time seemed to be real disasters, but the results turned out to be the structuring of a really great aspect of my life and career. So what can you say? So there's a theme and there's a consistency here, and as Campbell says, if we follow our bliss, we'll always have our bliss. And if we want security exists in insecurity. So that blew me away. I hope you like it. Like I say, if you're interested in finding out more about Joseph Campbell's work, obviously you can Google him, you can look him up on YouTube, where there's this film, this feature film called Finding Joe, which is based on Joseph Campbell's work. I've been waiting for it for a few months. I saw the trailer for it online, and I posted that on Facebook about 3 months ago, I think. But finally now it's available in the States by DVD, but then you have to wait for the DVD to be shipped. But you can basically pay, I think it's $8, which I did last night. I haven't watched it. It was late last night by the time I did this. Yeah, you can pay $8 and you get, I think, 48-hour access to it, to watch it. And it looks really, really interesting. So that's Finding Joe. I'll stick a link on here as well. So hope you like this. Thanks for watching. Follow your bliss, and hopefully speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye.